All right. Hey, Dave, well, thanks a lot for coming in today. Delighted to see you.
Thanks for having me, Brian. This is great. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, what I want to do today is just, we're just going to let this roll and we're going to have a chat. You know, we've known each other for 2 or 3 years, and you're one of these guys that I look at and say, you moved into a new, category for your work. You've done a great job. I've watched you grow and expand, and you're doing all kinds of different things that I don't see in any other gyms. And I was thinking, Dave's dynamic gym, because it's always changing, So
well, I have great mentors like yourself to guide me.
Yeah. All right, so we'll pass on that one. But so what I wanted to do today is just like tell us your story, and then we'll kind of just see where that takes us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd like to kind of go all the way back to I'd say my earlier days, like with regards to how I grew up, because it's relevant in the story. I mean, we're both huge fans of Danny Myers, and he talks about connecting the dots. And interestingly enough, when we look back at how I've gotten to where I am today, and I connect the dots, it just kind of makes sense. So playing competitive hockey at 5'9", 180 pounds, I had to be, fit. So that's kind of how I started my own personal experience in training within the gym. And then I took on a role where through university I was coaching a competitive swim team. That was my first experience as a coach. And so matching those two, I ended up in university wanting to be a dentist.
Well, that didn't work out very well, did it?
No, so I mean, again, going back to connecting the dots, I've realized now that the reason that I wanted to be a dentist, other than the fact that I just really like a nice smile and teeth. Like, I have an obsession with good teeth, I guess you can say that. And so I thought that was how it was all connected. But realistically, it was a profession where I saw people running their own businesses. So they were able to become a professional dentist and then run a practice.
Right.
And I think that's what attracted me to it. So after university, realizing at that point I had washed into Dallas Dental School and realized that that's not what I wanted to do. I got out of it, ended up starting like a sales career, selling photocopiers, and then moved on to selling pharmaceuticals with Johnson & Johnson. And throughout that entire process, I continued to, pursue my own personal fitness journey, and it turned from training for sport to simply just training for enjoyment and training for, I'd say, life.
Yeah, training for life.
Yeah.
Functional training.
Yeah. And so at that point in time, living in Vancouver, some of my friends that I had gone to university with had left school and actually had opened up a gym. And through discussions with him, he was just kind of pushing me towards it, whether on purpose or not. It was something that kind of, again, seemed to connect as it went along. And that's where in 2013 I moved back to Halifax and opened up a gym.
7 years.
Yeah.
It's been open.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Just to go back for a second, you look and say you started competitive hockey, then you started coaching. Then you thought about dentistry, but you wound up in sales.
Yeah.
And so you got to see lots of smiling faces in sales, and you got to connect with people, and you got the coaching experience, and all that would come together, combined with your fitness to, encourage you to take a leap of faith. I'm sure you were making really good money selling pharmaceuticals, living in Vancouver, great lifestyle, and to move back to Nova Scotia and start your own business as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of risk in that,
Yeah, I think, there's something ingrained in entrepreneurs. And I really enjoyed my experience with Johnson & Johnson. And actually, there's no way I would have been as successful as I am today with Blended if I had not gone through the experience of selling photocopiers and then my sales experience with Johnson & Johnson. So I won 2 President's Clubs with Johnson & Johnson before the age of 25, which ended up landing me into a sales training role. So I became a field sales trainer with Johnson & Johnson. And that experience was amazing because it allowed me to not only interact with people that were older than I am and be responsible for their journey as they began working with Johnson & Johnson, but it gave me the opportunity to understand multiple stages of the corporate world of business, which we've implemented through like our development at Blended Athletics. Like we've implemented major components of that as we've grown. And if without that experience, I honestly don't know if we would have been able to even do that.
Well, one, you probably wouldn't have known that those things should be implemented.
Correct.
Because if you're starting off as a small business person, most people will start off with their passion for fitness or passion for the gym or passion for food or passion for service, not with the corporate training that you've had.
Yeah.
So then let's go back to Blended. Tell me about how you started, because I've had the pleasure of working out with you a few times, and every time I go into your gym, I go, this isn't a normal gym. This isn't what I'm used to.
Well, at 26, starting Blended with not a lot of cash flow, we were pretty raw. So, the space that we have today is certainly nothing like the space that we started off with in 2013. We're going through new renovations as we speak and redesigning our locker rooms, and we're going to probably get into the topic of customer experience and hospitality, and that's kind of our next task, has been to improve that section of people's journey.
Before you go there, let's just put that on hold for a second.
Yeah.
How many square feet did you start with, and when you finished the renovation, what will you have?
So we started with 6,000 square feet, and today we're 11,000 square feet.
Wow, that's a big gym.
Yeah.
That's a big gym.
And when you walked into the gym in 2013, it was like painted cement floors. Now when you walk in, there's hardwood laminate floors through the lobby, and it's just quite a different experience. But again, there would have been no rhyme or reason for me to have started the gym in 2013 the way that we see it today, because not only did I at the time have no idea what I was doing as an entrepreneur, but there would have been no way to float it. So you can't just open your doors with 0 clients. I had our very first day, there were 6 people that attended the gym, and 3 of them were staff.
Wow.
Actually, one wasn't even a staff. It's Kimberly, who's my wife.
Yeah.
And at the time, she wasn't officially on payroll. But half of the people that attended on day one were myself, Mel, and Kimberly.
So tell me about the challenges of opening with 3 members and 3 staff members and growing it to where you could, because this isn't your first expansion, this is your second one, right?
It's technically our 4th.
Your 4th, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me how you started with 3 members, and you've gone through 4 expansions, and then tell me how many members you have today.
Yeah, so, originally, again, connecting the dots, I look back at it, and because we were so small at the time and we didn't really know what we were doing, we were banking off of the personal relationships that we were creating with the few people that were walking the door. And because we were able to spend so much time with those individuals early on, we were offering like a really good experience. We were answering questions that they had that typically they would never have been able to have asked in a more commercial or a larger gym. So I think early on, less by plan, more by fluke, we had success simply due to the fact that myself, Melanie, and Kimberly, we had personalities that we just wanted to help people.
Right. And that help came in the form of additional information. It's almost like, education while training.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the customers that you have are getting a lot more value than going into a gym that's got chin-up bars and barbells and dumbbells and sleds and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So their experience was dramatically enhanced by the one-on-one relationships.
And I think that's why the industry as a whole over the last 10 years has changed so significantly, is that there's so many new players that have come into the fitness world that they've started off as significantly smaller entities and have been able to provide a more personalized experience, which at the end of the day, again, it's just, the customer appreciates that time,
right.
Especially when it comes to, the leaders within the company. So the owner being on the floor basically 14, 16 hours a day, there's something there.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It's not sustainable, but
yeah, no. But I mean, if given your background in training and coaching, I would suspect that a lot of your time is spent training and coaching your team. You must have a really good training program for any of your fitness coaches and trainers.
Yeah, even more so now, I would say. Actually, it's just evolved. So unintentionally, the training early on happened because we just spent we were so small that we spent all of our time together. Now, as an organization, we have 14 full-time employees. We have 6 part-time employees. So now we have a significant amount of structure day to day and week to week and month to month that allows us to provide a way to communicate and train our employees in ways that we didn't originally do. So just to share, we do a daily management huddle at 9 a.m. every single day. So our senior team gets on a call at 9 a.m. to go through everything that happened the day before, from staffing to members to attendance to miscellaneous and facility things. And then at lunchtime, when our trainers essentially make their transition, so the morning trainer and the evening trainer, the two, because we run multiple spaces simultaneously, as they do that, they sit down for a huddle, and Jason runs them through that same information. So every single day we're communicating the day-to-day needs that they need to know at a much bigger extent than what we were before.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's an incredible level of communication that most companies can't achieve, even if they set out as a goal. It's very difficult to do that. Tell me what has happened to your training. Has that become a lot more structured and regimented, or is it still kind of loose like it was in the beginning?
It's significantly more structured. So now even our process with regards to hiring, that is much more regimented. So our hiring process is extremely slow, and we've talked about hiring slow, firing fast.
Right.
And that's something that we certainly abide by now. And in order to even get a position at Blended, it typically takes about a month before we hire you. So a candidate would come in, and if they applied for a position, they are actually, their first week is just as a member. So we give them a free month or a free week membership, and they participate, and we observe them through their day-to-day actions in class and with our coaches, and just kind of see how they kind of hold themselves, as if they were a member and not as a staff. From there, they actually don't meet with me. I'm their last interview. So they meet.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, that is it. By plan, yeah. But they meet with Jason, and then they meet with Mel and Kimberly. They take our every Friday afternoon. We do we have a staff meeting every Friday afternoon at 1:30. And if you're a candidate applying for a job, you actually take our entire staff through a workout on Friday. So the first thing that you have to coach is simply the most intimidating class you'll ever have.
Right.
With people who are probably the most difficult to coach, not because we're not listening, but because we have a lot of fun as a team. Yeah. So we're a little rambunctious.
A little unruly. I can see that happening for sure. So let's switch gears now, and instead of talking about the gym and the training and the systems, let's talk about your members.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the journey that you've taken them on from when you first started to where you are today.
So, like everything else, it's evolved over time, and I would say today, the clarity we have with regards to our member journey is closer to the way the journey was originally. So as we've gone throughout the last 6-7 years of business, we've evolved, and we actually started heading in directions that I feel they weren't us. And at the time, it was an experiment. It was us kind of trying to better understand who we were, I think, as a company, what the public needed, and who our clients were. So in today's world, we offer a journey for each and every individual that walks through the door that from start to finish provides a much more clear understanding of kind of where they are and what their goals are, and it customizes a class experience to the individual. So again, opening up the gym in 2013, we offered 5 classes a day, and today we offer 16 classes a day.
Wow.
So yeah, the classes, and
increase.
it was when we were offering 5 classes a day, it was the same class, all 5 classes.
Right.
Now out of the 16 classes, there are 2 different classes. We run 8 classes, which we call the Loft, and 8 classes that we call Ground Zero.
Yeah. Now tell me, how do you customize classes to my individual needs? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of the most difficult part. It actually happens outside of the class itself, to a greater degree at least. So in classes, coaches are trained to be able to scale movements or modify workouts to the individual, especially if they're working around some sort of limitation, injury, or anything along those lines, or even like based off of what their goal is, if it's to increase their aerobic capacity or if it's to become stronger. But the major change that we took about 2 years ago was the introduction of a program that we call PEP. It stands for Pursuing Excellence Through Performance. It was actually something that you're very familiar with, considering the fact that I designed it and came up with it as a part of the Entrepreneur Leadership Program by McCain Institute. And the process that our members go through today is a individualized, custom, one-on-one session for 30 minutes every 3 months. So as you join the gym, you come in, and it's just not a matter of jumping into the class and going from there, but you actually will meet with one of our coaches, so a PEP coach. You will discuss your goals, and we'll do an in-body scan, which is, you've gone through it. It's really cool.
It's basically really cool. I love it.
Yeah, it's a full body composition analysis that takes us and provides us with information such as how much water's in your body, how much fat's in your body, how much muscle's in your body. It's really neat. So we analyze that, we use this as a baseline, and then through our conversation, we really dial into what your goal is. And oftentimes people's perception of what their goal is not actually what it is. So, we've trained our team in order to really dig down and figure out, why is it that you've come to the gym, and why have you come to the gym today? Right. So, if that's your goal, why didn't you come in the gym 2 months ago? Right. And it could be lifestyle things. So, a lot of the times people make major changes in their life when they're going through a divorce, or when they've been diagnosed with some sort of illness, or they've just changed jobs or moved to a different province or a different country. So like those things are surprisingly more important for us as a team to know than simply you coming to us and saying, Dave, I want to lose weight.
Right.
It's like, well, what's that really mean? Why?
Yeah,
because as soon as we understand why, then we can help guide you through that process.
So you do a lot more intensive drilling down to get to the root problem or root desire that they actually have.
Exactly.
And lots of times I'm sure you run into people are willing to set these goals, but they're not willing to do the work to achieve them.
Yes.
That must be a big challenge in your business.
It is. And I mean, I think that's where we continue to evolve and improve on now, is through those quarterly sessions. It provides us with an understanding where we need to be spending our time with you. And oftentimes, the vast majority of people that walk through the doors, I would say 90% of people, they typically just need to participate in classes in order to hit their performance goals. What they need to do outside of class is what's more important, because the physical is, as we've kind of alluded to now, is kind of a part of it. The mental side of what people take away from their experience at Blended is oftentimes more valuable. So it's the relationships that they end up creating within the gym with other members or with coaches, the mindset that they kind of pull away. So like our members are like, we hit the 35 to 55-year-old working professionals.
Right.
And so when you surround yourself with, you know, a group of individuals that are all very, very similar with regards to how they're wired, yeah, you've got a very good, I guess, sounding board,
right,
day to day, and you're spending, you know, 3 to 5 days of your week, you're spending at least an hour in the gym
with that group.
So now all of a sudden those components actually make a huge change in your life, just because of who you are now surrounding yourself around.
You're associated with. Yeah, that makes sense. Yesterday when you and I were chatting, you talked about, and I think your quote was, we're going to double down on hospitality.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked and say, I'm in the restaurant business, you know, I know what hospitality is all about, or at least I think I do. You know, so to hear you say it was really interesting for me. So I want you to explain for me how a gym is going to double down on hospitality.
Well, let's start by talking about the fact that more or less, when you look at the fitness industry, there hasn't been a lot of changes over the last 30 years. And when we look at the last 30 or 40 years, that is the length of the fitness industry. So you look at law or medicine or even like the restaurant world. And you know, the restaurant world didn't, I'd say, get really, really popular until probably like the 50s or 60s, from a restaurant and experiential perspective. But the world of like fitness, you imagine going back to 1950 and...
Well, hang on a sec, I wouldn't have been able to do that, come on.
But imagine going back at that time and someone saying, I'm heading to the gym to walk on a treadmill. It'd be absurd. Like, you just walked outside.
Yeah, like,
you're going to walk to the gym to go on the treadmill? Like,
yeah,
that would make no sense at all.
Yeah.
So the industry is relatively new. And for the most part, more often than not, people's objectives just revolve around moving. As I was saying earlier, like 90% of people, they just need to move, whether it's yoga or Pilates or running or weightlifting or powerlifting or whatever it may be, they just need to move. And so, you know, it doesn't really matter what gym you go to, because each gym you go to, their objective is to make you move. So we had to start thinking past that. And, you know, technology is a very interesting thing. And we just wrote a blog post actually about how the technology is affecting the fitness world. And people think, or I think that a lot of people believe, especially with how it's evolved over the last 5 years, and is that technology is kind of taking over the fitness world and like how it's affecting it. I think it's enhancing it. Like, we use a lot of technology now within the gym, from MyZone technology, which our members can wear a heart rate monitor.
Right.
On a TV screen in front of the gym, it displays their heart rate so that they can get immediate feedback, and our coaches can get immediate feedback on how hard you're really working in that moment.
Right.
Which is extremely valuable.
Yeah,
we look
great.
at the Embody machine. That was information that 15 years ago you weren't getting every 3 months as a baseline. So,
well, I can tell you the first time I saw anything like that, I was in Slovenia at a high performance national gym.
Yeah.
And we happened to walk in, and I talked to the guy and said, could we be tested on that?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, okay, but it's going to cost you.
Yep.
So we paid a big buck to do it, and you look at it and say, I had no idea you could get tested like that.
And now it's included in our members' memberships.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
So we use all this technology, but again, everyone has access to that same technology.
Right.
So if everyone has access to the same equipment and the same technology, then how do you separate, or how do you like stand out amongst the crowd?
Yeah.
And so that's where we've made major steps on doubling down on hospitality.
So give me an
customer
example of the
experience.
hospitality that you deliver at Blended.
So the most simple way to explain it is names. The emphasis that we put on our team and our members, or our staff, in order to memorize our members' names would blow you away. It's like, as you join the gym, we use a Slack channel, And when you join, we take your picture, we put a little bio up about you, and our staff go through that Slack channel to memorize your name, so that when you walk in on the second time, even if I've never met you, I'm gonna walk up and say, Brian, how are you? How was your first class yesterday? And it blows people away.
Of course it would. You know?
Something so simple. But when we look at ourselves as humans today, we are more disconnected, even though we are technically more connected than ever.
Right.
And that's why I believe that technology is extremely impactful in the fitness industry, because it provides us the ability to know things that we weren't able to know so quickly before. But at the end of the day, when you've had a crazy busy day or a shitty day at work, and you walk into a space and you see a familiar face and they say hello, things just change.
And they call you by name. You kind of think you're in the Cheers bar in Boston, right? Where everybody knows your name.
They had something to that back then.
Yeah, they really did. It's really important. In my world, in the restaurant business, the more names of guests that we know, the more they feel welcomed when they come in and appreciate it. And that's really important.
You want to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you doing anything other than names for hospitality? You know, because you and I talked about hospitality a number of times.
Yeah.
And you know, we both agree that it's not restaurant specific, it's not gym specific. It's, you know, hospitality is about people interacting with people. So how do you facilitate that in other ways, you know, other than the names?
Our renovation that we're going through right now is designed in order to improve that within the gym. So the Disney Institute had a book that I read that I think, pretty sure you recommended it.
I'm pretty sure. Be our guest.
Yeah, be our guest. And it talked about how Walt Disney had designed the theme park and how every experience changed from the way the floor felt. Right? And so the texture of the floor creates an experience. And so when you start looking at the five senses, is when you move through the gym, how should that change? And that's what we're updating now. And like, we've been playing with it over the last couple of years to a much smaller degree in ways that we could, but we've never made the financial impact that we're making now in order to change the facility, in order to, yet again, change your experience based off of every phase of that hour that you're in the gym.
Right. Yeah, we don't do it in our floors, but we, you know, if you look through this restaurant, we have different lighting for different sections of it. We can turn each one of those up or down. We can lower the lights. These ones here, like, but you have to be able to do something that will impact that experience, you know, when they're inside your facility.
And we've changed our lighting at Blended for that reason too.
Yeah.
So even in the loft classes, our coaches have the ability to, like, we have LED colored lights in the class.
I saw those yesterday.
Yeah, so like they're backlit mirrors, and if you're in the middle of a workout and the objective of the workout at that exact moment is a high intensity component, the coach will change the lighting to red. Right? And that visual stimulus will actually change things from a chemical perspective in your body. And there's so much research on this, and like color patterns within a space in a business, and we've gone to the extent that we will change it in the middle of your workout based on like what that experience is supposed to provide.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And you know that I've been hanging out in gyms for a while, but I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anyone pay so much attention to the experience that the customers, you know, receiving while they're there. And I know that you do some stuff after hours too, where you get the group together and they go have a group event. So that's building that bond even tighter.
Events are huge.
Yeah.
So just to touch on events, you know, last week we ran a women's only event for our members, and we had, unfortunately, like, we had a capacity to it, 50 spots filled up like that. We had 50 women in the gym, no men, and it was their night.
Wow.
Right? And so I wasn't allowed in the gym.
Yeah.
And,
perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And
you get a night off.
They had the opportunity to discuss things that, you know, they wanted to talk about.
Right.
And they worked out together. They ended up going to the movies afterwards together. So that was one of the things that I kind of contributed to it. So they all went out and had 50 movie tickets ready for them, and they went out to kind of celebrate just the experience as a whole together.
I love it. That is phenomenal. I bet there's not another gym in North America that's done that. I bet there's not one, but that's amazing. So, in the interest of time, I start to wrap up. So you've been a visionary in the gym world in the way that you've developed your space, developed your team, created a very unique experience that people can't get elsewhere. You monitor their progress, every 3 months. So you got milestones, you got goals, objectives, all that type of stuff. It's all really, really interesting, and I know you got some really interesting, equipment in your gym too.
Yeah.
That's where we are in 2020.
Yeah.
Where are you going to be in 2025? Give us that visionary view and 5 years out.
Yeah, we're certainly not slowing down. Kimberly talks to me each time I go through a renovation saying, this is the last one, right? She's now to the point where she understands that it's just an ongoing process. And I think that what I'm most excited about now is that the team that I am surrounded by, the growth that we see, and you go to like being the visionary, that a lot of that's coming from the team. Like, it's amazing the ideas that are coming forward from our team as a whole that we're implementing to improve client experience. And it's extremely valuable for me to be surrounded by a team like that, because I don't spend 16 hours on the floor anymore.
Right.
There's a lot of things, as you know, that need to be done in the office that are not the most exciting.
That's for sure.
Right? And
you're better off on the floor.
Yeah,
it's more fun.
It was much more enjoyable, and there's a lot more information to be gathered. Yeah. And so, I try to get on the floor as much as I possibly can, but the fact that a lot of my team is on the floor for not 16 hours a day, but they're on the floor. They're the ones that are interacting with clients. Right. They're the one hearing what clients want and want to see, and going back to connecting the dots. And I just love that entire analogy is they're the ones that are now doing it.
Right. Well, I think, the reason that they're doing it is that you've created, one, a culture, but two, an environment where they can do it, and their input's appreciated, and often it's acted upon. So, that's a fertile ground for someone that wants to improve.
Yeah.
Last question for you. If I was looking to come and, have a change in my fitness level, my lifestyle, or that type of thing, what are the couple most important things you would encourage me to do?
Jump in with 2 feet. It's a daunting experience for people to change their habits. And if you're not in a routine currently and that's what you're looking to change, the only way, if you've ever read Power of Habit or Atomic Habit, and they talk about the power loop, is that you really just need to jump in with 2 feet and start the process and ask for help. Right? So if you come into the gym and you're kind of tiptoeing around, not having conversations with people, not asking coaches and staff questions, as much as we want to be able to guide you through that experience, if we don't know what you need, then we can't help you.
Pretty hard to give it.
And so, we're there to help. And through all of our experience over the years, we have a pretty good idea of what people need. But it makes it a hell of a lot easier when you just tell us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, it's been a real pleasure to chat with you. I love your story. I think it's amazing. You're doing a spectacular job. And I hope in 2025 I'm here with you doing this again after we have a good workout together.
I love it. Thanks so much, Brian.
All right, man. Thank you. It was great.